Welcome back to the Federal Executive Forum on Federal News Network. We're talking about secure cloud computing, and we were just getting into priorities. Brian, I want to give you an opportunity to talk about your number one priority over there at Okta for the next year.
Yeah, thanks, Luke. Really, when you boil it down, our number one priority is continuing to push our solution into these higher assurance accreditations, such as IL4 and FedRAMP High. Right? As Matt was mentioning earlier, we have a lot of customers that want to bring our best of class user experience and modern authentication into their environments, where they just require a higher level of security. It's a critical aspect for us to be able to deliver on that this year. So,
very important aspect of the entire ecosystem is to be able to manage that correctly. Dave, how about at USDA? Give us your top couple of priorities. You got a lot of stuff in the hopper there. What's your 1, 2, and 3?
Our top priorities are really just to build on the success that we've had. We need to scale better. I think that when you kicked off the show, you talked about Cloud Smart and the move to Cloud Smart. Mm-hmm. We're a federated entity, and so as the DISC organization, I partner with the missionaries. I partner with my internal peers at CISO and CDO and CTO. We've proven that cloud has business enablers. Has operational enablers and can be done secure. As we continue up that growth scale, we're out of introduction. We need to our big number one priority is just to continue to scale better. So we continue to gain those efficiencies, and we continue to improve performance in a business-driven manner for the mission areas, and most importantly, for the tax-paying citizens of this country that rely on the agricultural and food supply chain.
Sure. A lot of priorities and very important. And again, I don't think a lot of people realize how massive USDA is across the spectrum. So that's fantastic to hear that. Ryan, how about at Snowflake? Top priority for you all for this year?
Yeah, thanks, Luke. So top priority, I think when we talk about the shared responsibility model, if you look at the service side of the house, it's really Snowflake is FedRAMP moderate, but working towards, much like the other vendors from an Okta or Palo Alto Networks perspective, Snowflake working towards FedRAMP high, largely due to customer demand, as well as things like ITAR and IL4. So that's the service side of the software as a service aspect. And then I think on the software side, as a security architect, I look at things that I've mentioned, but rolling out things like row access policies, access history for fine grain audit around what people are accessing from a sensitive data perspective, as well as classification and anonymization type capabilities, features baked into the product.
Fantastic. Dave, we're going to pivot over to lessons learned. Give us your top lessons learned. You've been at it for a while over there. For our listening audience, for those that are on this journey, number one lesson learned.
Number one lesson learned is cloud adoption has a lot to do with change management. Mm-hmm. So that it's not just about the processor and compute. It's not just about storage. It's not just about bandwidth. When you're going to a cloud, it's a business enabling transformation. So you've got to think about the process end to end. Historically, when we were hosting apps, when we were hosting data, our team would cover everything in terms of firewall changes. Mm-hmm. And we would know it in the data center. If the application or business owner didn't know it, we would catch it, and we would either perform the update or we'd pass it, work with the CISO to pass it. Now that the application, the business owner is the application owner with a lot of cloud, things like the change management, whether it's security, whether it's operations, need to be fully considered. So there's no surprises on the bill, no surprises with firewall configs. And so that's part of that scale opportunity, and as a priority is mastering some of the processes, overcoming those challenges. But it's really an opportunity. We recognize that there's no going back. This is an enabling transformational opportunity. Sure. And so we're partnering every day. I talk to the CISO every day. I talk to my partners in the mission areas every day.
Process very important to the overall success of the journey. Brian, top lesson learned over there at Department of State.
Yeah, definitely. I'd love to echo David's comments. I mean, it is organizational and cultural change management. Anyone who looks at it as a simple tech refresh will probably not meet their objectives. I tell you, we've got very few examples of folks that just lifted and shifted an existing application. Really, it's a chance to reboot the way the business works, to provide better mission outcomes, and the business gets that. And the art of the possible that's come about the last few years as tools have improved are just phenomenal. So people are seeing that. The second piece with that is that you've got to have interesting projects to attract top talent and keep them. You know, these days it's a war for talent. And you've got to have exciting, meaningful, mission-oriented work, and you've got to make allowances for how people work remotely and how they work in a modern context. And then lastly, I'd say, you know, I've seen this happen before, but look at it as change, right? So don't pick the low-hanging fruit. It takes the same amount of energy to bend over and pick it up. You might as well reach for something that matters, that has a huge mission impact, even if you only incrementally improve that process or that outcome. You're going to get more funding, more support, more buy-in, and more attention by doing that than going for, you know, something easy.
Good analogy on the bending over, and interesting on the recruitment aspect of it. That's a good catch there. I'm sure everyone's having that challenge. Brian, top lessons learned as you've gone on this journey.
So for FedRAMP, it's continued collaboration and partnership with federal agencies and industry. Okay, being transparent and having strong working relationships with industry and the federal community is how we improve the cloud service. Okay, we recognize at FedRAMP that our cloud service providers and the third-party assessors are really deep in talent, and we've actually, you know, through our collaborative efforts, we've reached out to our stakeholders to help us formulate guidance and policy documents that directly affect our stakeholder community. And it's that continued relationship building to learn what industry is doing with regards to technology, and to learn what agencies are doing to adopt it. That's where FedRAMP should be, and what we need to be doing is having that collaborative relationship to understand what's happening across the spectrum.
Keep a pulse on it and adapt and overcome. Okay, well, we're going to have to wrap it up here. We want to ask everyone to close out with some comments regarding what does it look like down the road, around the corner, over the horizon, if you will. Brian, Dak, we're going to start with you at Okta. Give us a little visibility into what it's going to look like over the horizon.
Yeah, thanks, Luke. Really, when you're looking at out 3 to 5 years, Okta's vision of the future is really establishing or continuing to establish identity as a primary cloud, right? Meaning, just as you think of infrastructure as a cloud platform, or collaboration as kind of those primary clouds that government agencies are really moving their workloads and using to perform their agency missions, identity becoming that primary cloud is critical. I think to a certain degree we're getting there, but we're gonna, we see even a greater need, for this identity cloud that can meet, all the needs, identity needs of a customer, whether that's providing secure access to business applications for their employees, and contractors, or which allows them to kind of manage the business and achieve their missions, to enabling secure and modern experiences for the citizens that they serve, right? And having identity as a primary cloud is going to allow us to meet that multitude of use cases that our customers have, that will, I think, really improve the way the government works, as it enables it to be more agile, be able to move quicker. They won't have to deal with, kind of install, operate, upgrade of this infrastructure,
Sure.
on-premise stuff that hinders that ability to meet their, meet the needs of their internal and external customers.
Right. Identity Cloud. Looking forward to it. Interesting. Matt, how about over at Palo Alto Networks? What's it going to look like in a couple of years? What can we expect?
Yeah, I love that question. Looking at my crystal ball, putting on my prognostication hat, I think that I love to go back to what we know and what we've seen. So I know, based upon our cloud threat research, we know that while it's easy for any organizations, as I mentioned before, we saw that agencies scaled their cloud usage by over 83%. We know that they're really struggling in terms of getting automation from a security perspective in place across multi-cloud environments, and also across their software development pipeline. So, for me, I think the challenge is clear, is that automation, it's no longer optional for keeping agencies safe. And, having a single platform where you can do that across multiple clouds, I think is a massive benefit. Probably the best analogy there is if you think of, a Tesla vehicle, they've got the autopilot feature. If you're driving down the highway, drop your phone, you reach over and grab it. Normally in a normal car, you'd veer over, you might hit a car next to you. But with the autopilot feature, it will automatically put you back into your lane. So I think that's probably the best way to think about where I see things going and what really agencies need to do over the next probably 1 to 3 years to make sure that as they scale their cloud workloads, they're doing it in a safe, secure, and compliant way.
No doubt have to bring automation into that environment to secure what's going to be in place in 2 years and then secure what's going to be in place or will be in place beyond that as well. Snowflake, Ryan, give us a picture, what does that demand signal look like out there for the next couple of years for you all?
Hopefully frosty, right? Is the demand signal for Snowflake.
Oh,
I think I had to, insert bad dad joke here, right? As my 3 kids would tell me. But I think it's really evolving the data cloud with Snowflake technology as the underlying platform. And I think a lot of the lessons learned, and even something I can appreciate as a young intelligence officer in a former life, right, is the single source of truth. From a data perspective, this comes from a lot of lessons learned with customers, right? Well, we have a source of truth, but it's not your truth if it's, if you're not sharing data securely and in near real time, right? So data sharing and data cloud enable our customers to go right to the creators of data and the experts who know that data the best, right? The analogy, I think that's relevant is, you don't go to NOAA for weather data, or you do go to NOAA for weather data, right? You don't install a wind sensor on your own roof, right? And so I think that's where we see us going is these architectures from a data cloud perspective with our federal customers or even commercial customers is using our marketplace, our private exchanges and data sharing capabilities to build their own data clouds, right? And kind of this one-to-one architecture, one-to-many, or in a consumption style architecture where interested parties can go in and consume that single source of truth of data. And then combine that with their own data sets as well, right? With the ability now to make better decisions. And of course, doing that all securely is something that's near and dear to my heart, from a security perspective. But really, I think the actualization of the data cloud is where we see our customers moving and building those secure architectures in those different relationships that I described.
absolutely. The ability to provide data in the way that they need it, when they need it, to make informed and secure and confident decisions on that data, going to be so important. Already is, and as we collect more of it, certainly will become even more relevant. Brian, how about over at FedRAMP? If I'm a new product company trying to come in and get FedRAMP certified, et cetera, what's that going to look like in a couple of years? What am I going to experience at that point?
No, that's a great question. We've heard a lot from my colleagues on the panel about automation. So at FedRAMP, I mentioned the initiatives that we have going on. Those are just the tip of the iceberg for us. Aspirationally, we want to incorporate automation into the end-to-end authorization process. We feel that we can get there. Don't press me on a timeline on that, because
Sure.
we're stepping into this field, with what we have. And again, we're just scratching the tip of the iceberg with regards to, what's in the realm of the possible, with regards to automating packages and again, aspirationally having automation from end to end in the authorization process.
From tip to tip during the entry all the way through and then sort of back out again, right? You want an end-to-end automation experience there to, one, I would imagine it would increase the accuracy, but two, certainly I would expect it to shrink the timeline to some degree.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Creating efficiencies where we can, getting secure cloud services to the federal customers faster. That's a win across the board, not just for the cloud provider, but for the agencies as well. And just the advantages all around are remarkable.
Fantastic. Brian Merrick, Department of State. Paint a picture of the future. You all have a lot of moving parts going on right now. It sounds like you're pulling a lot of stuff together, raising the bar as far as your DevSecOps capability. Let's fast forward a couple of years, 2 or 3 years. What's your sort of marker out there for success? What are you shooting for over the next couple of years? What can I expect if I'm a new, freshly minted Foreign Service officer getting ready to go out into the field? What can I expect?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think what we're going to see is a lot more breaking down those silos and building a lot more internal efficiencies to share data, really democratizing that data within the department and with our partners. And really, that's going to fuel a lot better business outcomes because it is a very siloed organization. And part of that, to be fair, kind of goes in line with the challenges in overseas connectivity backbones and whatnot. So we still have to be able to get to the cloud to use it. So as those improvements continue to move forward around the world, that singular dispersion of cloud capability is just going to improve and enhance. And I think we're going to see at the end of the day, our diplomats overseas in a better position with real-time data at their fingertips, no matter where they are, to be able to do their mission and respond to the nation's needs in a way that just wasn't possible in a non-automated analog environment. And we're really looking forward to continuing moving in that direction. But so far, I think we've got the right groundwork laid, and we're definitely moving in the right direction, and that's going to accelerate rapidly.
Take advantage of these capabilities. You're right. And if you just look at the space race and the low Earth orbit, sort of satellite constellation capabilities that are getting rolled out there, I would imagine 2 or 3 years, the connectivity to remote locations is going to be less and less of an issue. At least we hope, right? That'll be fantastic. Dave, how about over at USDA? What can we expect over the next 3 years? If I'm a farmer out there trying to seek a benefit, get a loan, etc., what am I going to expect? What are you thinking about in regards to new capabilities, or where do you think you will be on your maturity journey?
So I think you're going to see better service. You're going to see better response time. And I'd really like to build off some of the comments that Brian made at State and some of the industry peers. I think they gave some great analogies. And the commonality of all those analogies is it's impact oriented. And how that applies to USDA is if you do a farm loan, you'll get a response time, you'll get immediate feedback. If you do crop insurance, you'll know that you'll get better processing time, you'll get confirmation of receipt. It'll be easier to use because of the interfaces. There'll be more options to use. So what's happening is we're evolving more from an infrastructure to a service-based approach. In fact, I think in 3 to 5 years, you won't even hear the term IT infrastructure. It'll all be service-based. And the KPIs will reflect that as well. We're not going to talk about server uptime, whether it's in my data center or whether it's in AWS's virtual machine. We're going to talk about response time. We're going to talk about processing time specific to the application, specific to the business process of serving that farmer, of serving that citizen taxpayer. And it's going to be a better world. It's better government.
Fantastic. And that sounds very promising. I want to thank all of you for taking some time out of your busy schedules and fighting the good fight on behalf of all the citizens across the country and across the globe. I'd like to thank the sponsors here for supporting our show. I'd like to thank the good people here at Federal News Network that make our program so enjoyable and successful. And most of all, I'd like to thank you, the listening audience out there that tune in every month. You've been listening to the Federal Executive Forum, part of the Federal News Network.